Hi, friends. I'm Alexa. Welcome back to the Nuance Diaries, where I make my vulnerability into a permission slip for yours. And I always say, boy, oh boy, are we ever doing that today? But we really are, because I wrote this one and now I'm staying in and publishing it, because it's just that kind of day where I want to speak to you directly and not schedule it out for 2 weeks from now. This is called The Horrors Persist, and so do the emails. It's a stream of consciousness and a snapshot of daily life at what feels like the end of the world, even though it's not somehow. So, a week or so ago, a new subscriber told me that the following piece called "I guess it's so fun to have heart when we are living through these days" really resonated with them, which is nice to hear. And sentiment behind that piece has never felt more true. So the reflections that I'm sharing here today are from that same chamber in my heart, honestly. And that piece, it's linked, but really it was just one of those days, like today, where I got off a Zoom meeting and I was looking at the news and I was somehow going through my day and I just needed to talk about the absurdity of life right now. So here we are now doing that too. I saw The Wild Party Sunday night, last night when I'm recording this, and it was indeed a wild party. A wild, wild party. It was so good and so intense, and for those of you who don't know it, I linked it, but it is a musical. There are actually two different versions of this musical based on this long form, almost book-length poem, and it's, oh, I just can't even talk about it. It's so good. Earlier that day, I watched another intense performance, Hippolytus in the Arms of Aphrodite, which was an immersive, augmented reality theater experience. Which basically means there are pieces of the performance that are live happening in front of you, and you have these glasses on, and there are parts that are augmented reality, like VR. So it's a combination of VR and live performance, which is really trippy. And I've seen countless exceptional performances at Culture Hub or on the board, and this one was no different. It was so amazing. On the way home, when my Sunday afternoon of theater was over, I speed walked to my subway station in the rain, so I wouldn't have to wait 15 more minutes for the next one. And it was then that I realized how sore my ankles were after 2+ miles of walking all day and jump roping that morning. Why did I jump rope that morning? I don't know. Great question. I got home, I had some leftover mac and cheese, and I fell asleep after watching 3 hours of Golden Girls, but not before reading about the plane that collided with a fire truck at LaGuardia upon landing. The plane collided with a fire truck at LaGuardia upon landing. You think you're about to be safe and sound, and then just like that, the ground is ripped out from beneath you. I woke up and stretched a little, checked the news, and I can't stop myself from watching the video of a woman being detained by ICE at the SFO airport. I learned that they're apparently coming to New York too, and lots of places around the country. And I have linked here a piece called If ICE Takes Me, where I share a story about the time I lost my passport in an airport. I start puttering around my house, washing my face, brushing my teeth, and making coffee. I feel off. I'm judging myself for that feeling of offness. Why do I feel so down? So lethargic? I've got to get it together. I'm reminded of how I kept on working when I heard about the January 6th insurrection. I was in a consultation when it happened. My phone was buzzing uncontrollably. I turned back on after the consultation ended. Turned the news on, and I watched in horror. But I continued to send emails. And here I am 5 years later, watching more horrors, sending more emails. I'm not hopeless, but I won't pretend to have all the answers. What I do know is that I feel better when I feel less alone, which is why I'm sharing all of this with you now. Sitting with all these feelings and atrocities, I was reminded of something that Andrea Gibson said on the We Can Do Hard Things podcast. And it's kind of a long excerpt, but it's just so good. It's so good. I have spent my entire career, as Andrea, encouraging people to have their feelings. Don't push down your feelings. Open up to them all. That is where, in my experience, like I would have, if I would have got depressed, I could, and I know this. I don't want to negate the fact of clinical depression and meds, all of that. I'm pro meds. But I would get more depressed if there was something I wasn't allowing myself to feel. I thought, am I allowing myself to have all these feelings? Why aren't I fucking happy? And I realized that the feeling I was pushing down was joy, that I was afraid of that feeling. And there was a certain number of things that led to that. Some of it was how I was relating to our culture, how I was relating to activism, growing up in activist communities and thinking that if you weren't devastated, if you weren't despairing, if you weren't enraged, then there was something about you that was heartless. And some people respond to the world in really vibrant ways because they're furious or because they're grieving. For me, I am much better, and I have far more to offer the world when I am joyful. Andrea Gibson, the incredible, incredible poet who passed away recently, and documentary on her and her incredible partner, Megan Bally, is on Apple TV. Come See Me in the Good Light. Oscar nominated. Go watch it. I too hope to look back at my life and say I spent my entire career encouraging people to have their feelings. I am furious, heartbroken, beyond measure for every single individual being affected by this monstrosity of an administration. Families crying both inside and outside these detention centers have been senselessly ripped apart. I finally started reading Kamala Harris's memoir, 107 Days, yesterday at one of my favorite Italian restaurants between the plays. And I want to be at an Italian restaurant in Italy. I want Kamala Harris to be the president. I want Donald Trump to go back to being a punchline in sitcoms. I remember in Gilmore Girls, there was a line in season 2, episode 8, when Lorelai says, "It's title search, racial property, and guess who owns it?" Suki goes, "Tell me it's not that bastard Donald Trump." And that was 2001. 15 years before that man would become our president for the first time. There is no grand moral here. Never is. Tell someone how you're feeling today. Share this piece. Leave a like or a comment for a stranger. Text a friend that you love them. You're thinking of them. Do as the incomparable Corinne Bailey Ray says and put your records on. Call your senators and then order your favorite takeout. And maybe check out the song Little Light, where that first piece I referenced inspired. It's quickly become my anthem for these days, and it really feels like Elton and Brandy are singing directly to me every time. Again, it's called A Little Light, and that's where the lyric, "I guess it's no fun to have a heart when we are living through these days," comes from, which is the other true consciousness piece that I wrote months ago during another atrocity. So I hope that you are taking care of yourself and that you feel all your feelings and that you are taking care of your people and yourself. And just know that you are doing everything you can and that no one feels they're doing enough, because there is really no version of enough in a time like this. And I'm rambling. So make some more coffee, even though I usually don't have coffee after 3 o'clock because I think I deserve it. And I'm going to talk to you soon. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Love you. And just here with you in solidarity and hope and fury and all of the things. Bye.